Okay, so today we're going to test the differences between my Wahoo Elemnt Bolt and Strava. Just want to see if there's any differences, if they map any differently, so they're going to be running independently at the same time. So Strava is connected to a heart rate monitor, to my Apple Watch heart rate monitor, and the Bolt is connected to another heart rate monitor, so that they will completely separate. The Bolt also is using the Wahoo Speed Sensor, so it does not need GPS for getting accurate speed. So let's start with the Strava. We're going to do an outdoor ride. So it's recording now, and we'll start the Bolt. And we're just going to go and ride at the tobacco trail today. We live fairly close to the tobacco trail, so we can ride straight to it rather than taking the car. Alright, we're on the trail. The Wahoo says I'm doing about 8.2 miles an hour. And Strava says I'm doing 3.5. Now, of course, Strava is getting its data from the Apple Watch and through GPS, whereas the Wahoo is getting its data from the speed sensor on my front wheel. Since we've gone 2 miles, and it also says we've gone 2 miles on Strava. Ten and a half miles an hour, 9.7. So now the discrepancy isn't twice as much, it's just a mile per hour off. Beginning to think the speed sensor is the more accurate one. As you would think the GPS, if it was going to stay accurate, would be maintaining the same distance apart, but that doesn't appear to be so. Slow up a little bit, wait for the sauce. The speed sensor does have a little bit of a lag, as you can see if I were to stop. There he goes. I think it's just a lag in between its broadcast time from the sensor to the device. So unfortunately, it's not an accurate, instantaneous speed. It's probably like a 2 or 3 second delay. Let's see how fast you can go. All right, you're at 11 miles an hour. 12, 13, 14, that was an interesting vehicle. cross between a bike and a elliptical. Nice little bridge. The Wahoo says I've burned 282 calories. I've not really done much. My heart rate has not gone up. The Wahoo has always seemed to be high on the calorie calculation. Quite a bit different than any other platform I've ridden with. So I'm not sure why they are so different. Which means it either leads me to believe that the Wahoo calculation is wrong on the calories, because everything else shows a much lower number. Whoop, iPhone, Apple Watch, Strava, Map My Run, they're all pretty consistent on what they show for the calories, whereas this is, you know, I've been able to get 1,200 calorie workouts. Now my heart is doing 180 when I get those for extended periods of time, but Strava and the other apps will only give me around 400 or 500, so a little under half. I'm going at a consistent speed and it's holding at 6, whereas the GPS one is bouncing all over the place. 5, 3, 2. GPS can't figure out how fast I'm going. And I know my speed is staying steady here. And the Wahoo one is keeping the speed steady. Be interesting to see if the max and average speeds match up. Because I've already seen how the current speeds do not. Now, the Wahoo will integrate with Strava and many other fitness apps. Just connect it up, and after the ride it will sync the data over. It'll also do it to Apple Health. For this test, however, I disconnected Strava because I did not want it to merge the data or influence the data that Strava itself was taking anyway. So Strava is all by itself, just relying on the telemetry from the Apple Watch. If I find out that the Wahoo is more accurate to begin with, I could dump the original Strava data and then import in the data from Wahoo. You can also connect it up to Dropbox, and it will copy over the export file into Dropbox, and then you can use that to import into editors to extract the GPS data and get overlays for your videos, or import them into other fitness tracking apps like Strava or Map My Ride. That's assuming you didn't have it linked to begin with, or something happens and it doesn't sync properly. It's been known to happen. There's always a way of getting the data off. Alright, here we are. Highway 64. Good place to be if it ever starts to rain, I think. All right, ready to pick up some speed and go downhill? All right, let's go. See if you can beat 14. You're at 12 miles an hour right now. It says I'm doing about 12 miles an hour. And this says I'm doing all over the place again. 7, 6, 5. Can't make up its mind from second to second. Let's see what the lag is. All right, stop up here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 6 seconds before it responded to the stop. Now comes the time to compare the data from Strava and the Bolt. Our first screen shows the map overview. Strava shows 6.5 miles, which uses GPS data from the Apple Watch. The Elemnt Bolt shows 6.35 miles, which is using the data from the speed sensor on the front hub. Strava shows an average speed of 8 miles per hour, while the Bolt is showing 7.6 miles per hour. Looking at the details speed screen, Strava gave us a max speed of 18.8 miles per hour, while the Bolt gave us 17.8 miles per hour. As Strava gets the speed from GPS on your phone or watch, and the Bolt was using the speed sensor, I'm giving this one to the Bolt for more accurate speed. In the end, the averages are pretty close though. The GPS speed doesn't help much for real-time speed, as it was bouncing up and down a lot. Moving on to elevation. Strava is telling me that the max elevation is 323 feet, while the Bolt shows 221. The gain portion is about the same, so which one is right? I went to another site at www.freemaptools.com and looked up a few points along the tobacco trail. Based on that data, it shows that Strava with getting data from Apple Watch is correct. Apple uses an altimeter for its elevation data, while the Bolt uses a barometer and cross-checks the data with GPS and uses the one that it feels is correct. Apparently in my case, it was off by about 100 feet. The heart rate screen is pretty close on both platforms. However, Strava gave me 308 calories burned, while the Bolt calculated that to be about 555 calories. As most other platforms out there are consistent with Strava, I'm giving this one to Strava. The heart rate zones are just broken out differently between the two platforms. For myself, I like how Wahoo displays it better. Otherwise, both are consistent. Both platforms can write their data to Apple Health. Here, we see the main information all on one screen. The time difference is Strava counts all time, even pause time, while the Bolt does not count any time that you pause the workout. The distance is more accurate with the Bolt, and while they're close, this was also a short 6-mile ride. If you go further, say 50 or 100 miles, the difference will start to add up quickly. The calories are off by about 250. The Bolt is nearly doubled the amount. I mean, if you want to feel good about yourself, this will do it. However, I think it's just too high for what it is. Heart rate is identical, and the average speeds are pretty close. This just shows that dedicated sensors for speed are going to be more accurate than GPS. In the end, I use both. I use the Bolt computer to capture in all the data and then have it share that data with Strava, which then shares it with Apple Health. I mainly like it because I get more accurate speed and distance data. I'm not worried about how many calories I burn, so that data isn't as important to me. If you need accurate caloric information, then you may do better going with a platform like Strava or a fitness watch to calculate that. I myself will continue using the Wahoo Elemnt Bolt. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great day, and be sure to get out there and ride.